Welcome, everyone, to an episode of Discover with Sbenati. We're doing the Zoom meetup with Katie Kefalas. She is a business coach, a serial entrepreneur and investor. And Siri thought that I called her name, but I didn't. Executive coach, international speaker, self-made millionaire by the age of 23. This is just, I bet, just a snippet of what she does and who she is. And I'm really, really grateful to have her on. Thank you for being on, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? How are you in these nice, unprecedented times?
It's been interesting. It's been really interesting. I always say I'm really good with time management, but I think it's like pushing me to a new brink.
Mm-hmm.
And then just juggling. I think everyone's having to juggle, whether it's kids or dogs or whatever the case may be, just kind of giving everyone their space has been interesting. But
well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Without any further ado, I do want you to introduce yourself. So if you had an elevator pitch, you want to introduce yourself to someone on the elevator, how would you do it and what would you say?
So I would instantly just say I am Katie and I am a serial entrepreneur and investor. I started in the retail business and grew that globally and sold it off before the age of 25. And I now coach executive clients and also consult on businesses around the world.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. So, so then, curiosity would strike and I would ask the question and say, what got you started?
So a farmer's market in London, Ontario is what got me started.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll know it, Trails End. That's kind of where I started. And my kind of bridge to entrepreneurship was not wanting to be an entrepreneur. So I constantly didn't want to get into that realm. My family is self-made entrepreneurs and I just rebelled against it. And I started bartending and quickly in university and realized it was not for me. And kind of my bridge in there was a little farmer's booth, and I started my retail business out of that and implemented some other things. And then it was a ripple effect from there to the next 10 locations that we ended up building. So
wow.
That was the bridge, but at the beginning I rebelled against it.
But because you said you had a family background in entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
It pulled you in despite you having...
Yes, they suckered me in. Not unfortunately, it worked out very well. But in the beginning, it's I think some people look to their parents and they're like, okay, doctor, I want to be a doctor, teacher, I want to be a teacher. But for me, it was like there is no one path to entrepreneurship. And I knew that from my family because it wasn't just one job that they had or one business they owned. It was multiple businesses all over the world doing crazy things. And I craved stability. So I didn't want that. And then what I realized was I hate stability and I really did want that. So
what made you get to that discovery? Because the majority of people do love stability. So how did you discover that you don't like stability?
So at 18, my parents had a rule. So we moved from the UK to Canada. I was 6 months old and moved to downtown Toronto. And my dad originally was just working here and then ended up buying the company and so on and so on and so on. So he came with nothing, like 2 kids, 4 suitcases, $400. That's all we had. And I really watched him grow and blossom my whole life. And he really did try to keep it stable as far as, he'd be in Italy all week and then he'd come home just for the weekend to be with us and things like that. But when you're a kid and you're going to school and, like mom and dad picked them up every night and my mom was always there and my dad was as much as he could. But, you crave what you don't have. Mm-hmm. So then when I was 18, they said, okay, Katie, it's time to go out on the real world and do it yourself. So the credit card went back, the car keys went back, and it was a big push. And I literally financially was cut off at that point. So it was either you're going to bartend your whole life and go to school and, get in education debt and all these things, which I still ended up doing. But it was that, or what I realized in bartending and things like that, what was I really good at was sales. And I really had a little niche for it. And so little things I started doing outside of the farmer's booth was like the very first thing, which was every Saturday. And it all kind of just clicked that, this is what your gift is. You've clearly watched it your whole life. And you can still create stability in entrepreneurship. But what I did realize was I actually love waking up every day not knowing what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So even in these times right now with the virus and everything going on, I'm very much
Must be having the time of your life.
yeah, but I'm kind of an anchor in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like the world needed to change. I love it. So
Okay, so how did you go from farmers market to all these things that you've done? I mean, how did you get to that? Yeah.
yeah, so I always say this, and my coach actually says this too, is your first 100,000, your first million, it's like the hardest thing you ever do. And when I spoke in LA in November, like the biggest thing I spoke about was sacrifice and having to sacrifice, especially because I'm 19 at this point, right? So all my friends are, at Fanshawe going to bars or at Western, and they're all partying it up. And so you really had to kind of decide what you wanted. And so number one, sacrifice, had to sacrifice like hell. And as far as the farmer's booth, so I was in the vape industry. I was selling e-cigarettes. That's what I got into.
Mm.
And we added on buying and selling gold. No one was buying and selling gold at the farmer's market. Well, I knew how to do that. It's one of the many things my dad did. So I added that in, and then I just kind of saved it up. And then I had enough money to open my first store. And then first kind of turned to second, turned to third. Third, if you've ever watched the video or heard the story of me losing $35,000 in less than 30 days, that was my third store. It led like crazy. It was a horrible experience. So learning there to like get out of things quickly, fast decisions, get out of it. So eventually we had just kept growing. I just kept reinvesting. I saw the market as, this is before everything kind of blew up about vaping as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where like demand is high and you either ride the wave and you ride it really fast, or, you just have a really successful couple stores, right? So we grew that, and then we had the wholesale companies running as well. We partnered with a juice company. So we had the distribution rights on all of kind of Southwestern Ontario. It just kind of connections and building kept opening more doors, right? And then I was kind of struck with this decision of, do you want to sell? Because this is when now, the thing is I don't like uncertainty either. So I don't like when all my eggs are necessarily in one basket and I don't know if next month Ontario is going to shut e-cigarettes down, right? There was no law yet. It wasn't perfect. It was very profitable, but it could all get closed down tomorrow. So the laws came in place. It was actually good in our favor, but I had already started to sell at this point. So what I would do is go to each location, kind of sell off, and in the meantime was kind of investing in other things and property and businesses. And eventually got rid of everything strategically, put myself in each kind of location. It was usually either a customer that bought the store or one of the employees that bought the store. Didn't really even have to outsource that much.
That's what I do.
And so that's kind of how it happened. And then, once you have cash from those other opportunities, you can go and search for other opportunities and keep growing other ideas and other businesses. So that was kind of how it all happened.
Well, that's amazing. So you had a multitude of different businesses with regards to vaping, and then you partnered up with a juice company, and then things started to grow, and then you started to sell things off. So have you sold all of them off?
I have no more vape stores. Yeah.
Okay, no more vape stores. Okay. Yeah. And now you're exclusively you're lecturing around the world. Is that what you're doing?
So I was just about to do speaking tour, and then Corona came. So that is on hold right now. But right now it's coaching clients, doing some consulting with larger companies. But my biggest thing and what I'm good at is buying and selling companies, scaling companies. So whether I go into a company and say, like, they're paying me a fee to kind of fix everything and scale them, or they're wanting to partner up with me. So I come in, my knowledge is free, but now I gain, X amount percentage of the company and yada, yada. So that's kind of what I've been doing in the meantime. And then when this all happened, the only thing that comes out of this is opportunity. So, property, businesses. I mean, you're going to be able to get so much on pennies on the dollar because, number one, people are selling in fear. And number two, not many people are prepared for a storm. In these situations, and a lot of people spend all their money, even if they're really wealthy, right? The jets, the cars, everything like that, and they're not liquid, so they don't have the cash to now pick up all those opportunities. And the biggest billionaires come out of situations like this, like Warren Buffett and all those stories, right? So
okay, so then what advice would you give to the listeners in order to take advantage of the opportunities that are presenting themselves right now? So what would you give in terms of advice?
So I think it depends on what you do. So if you're right now, I just recorded a video on this, so I'm really passionate about this, but if you're someone who has a corporate job or a 9 to 5, you really need to understand that I can't give you the answer whether you're going to have a job tomorrow. Your boss's boss's boss can't even give you that answer because it's changing so rapidly. So if you're someone who does have a 9 to 5 job, then what you really need to do is give free value right now. So you need to find problem or solutions to problems. And what I keep saying to people is, as the owners of the company or the entrepreneurs, we have big problems to tackle right now. We're not necessarily paying attention to those little problems. So whether that means, the company needs to get on social media or something that's really not relevant right now because there's bigger issues, but you could solve that for your employer. So if you keep giving this value to your employer right now, completely free, like I live by give without expectation. And if you're giving and giving and giving, when it does come time to make that decision, whether they're going to keep you on or not, you have a higher chance. And I was coaching some people that are in corporate yesterday, and they said, okay, Katie, well, that's great, but what if I give them all this free value and I do all this stuff for them while I'm at home and I still don't keep my job? And I said, well, you're genuinely not giving without expectation then. You're expecting I'm going to do all this and keep my job at the end of it. That's not how giving works, right? So if that's your case, just give and give. And worst case scenario, you're going to get one hell of a letter of recommendation. And they might put you in contact with someone else to get a job. So that's kind of like my 9 to 5 people. And also be learning new skills. Like so many people I coach in corporate, they want to be, they also want to be a real estate agent, or they also want to start a podcast, or they also want all these things that they dream about. This is the time to be, utilizing your time and learning those skills. So, you could go to real estate school online while you're sitting here waiting for the world to bounce back, right? So that's kind of like my 9 to 5 thing. As far as entrepreneurs, investors, I still think we're a month out. I'm seeing a few deals come in, but I'm cheap as cheap comes. So I think that a little bit more time is going to pass and we're going to see, I think the ripple effect has to happen, right? Like people are deferring their mortgages 6 months. People are deferring their car payment. It hasn't hit people hard enough, and they think that the government's got their back, but the government only has so much money. So it's going to take a little bit of a ripple. So my best advice is to be ready to see those opportunities and to not be scared. If you're investing in companies, make sure Amazon's not going to be buying you out, or any of the big guys are going to buy you out. Look for things that are going to stay around for a long time. So that's what I'm doing.
That's great. So, okay. So then you talk about learning, you talk about advancing. What are you doing as a coach? What are you doing with your time because a lot of people are extremely bored with this COVID-19. I see this everywhere on social media. My friends tell me. So what is it that a successful person such as yourself is doing with her time?
So me personally, I am rereading every history book on 2008 and really just kind of getting my knowledge up on the market crash. I was trading a little bit, but I really want to dissect it, understand it, know it. I know a lot about it, but I can always learn more. So that is one big thing I'm doing. Obviously coaching my clients, my businesses need me more than ever, which is, I actually have to work a little bit in here. And then I randomly decided I'm going to write a book because I might as well write a book. I'm sitting here, I got nothing else to do. So yeah, I was like, what is this book about? I don't really know yet. We'll just write some chapters here and then we'll go through and edit it. So I'm kind of just doing a success blueprint, and then my life stories on how each one of those things has advanced me. So my first chapter was work ethic. And if you don't have work ethic, and that was actually a big thing for the 9-to-5ers, is if worst case scenario, you didn't get your job back or you still lost your job, you just created stronger work ethic. And the one thing that this economy can't take away from you is your work ethic. Right. So that was like the main chapter that I started with. So that's what I've been doing.
I saw that on your Instagram. You posted on your stories. You said one chapter done.
Yeah, we got it down.
Good for you. And do you know how many chapters it's going to be? Your book?
Right now I have 7 topics.
Okay.
So I think I've been Googling because I don't know, I'm learning. So I said, how many words are in a chapter? I had to Google that. I had to add more in. So I'm just kind of winging it, but that's what entrepreneurs do. So we'll
Right.
see.
Right. Good. Okay. So, with all your successes, you being a business coach and you having multiple businesses, I actually don't know what they are. I'm assuming real estate is one of them.
We'll see.
Um,
Yes.
what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge. I think my biggest challenge is control and perfectionism sometimes.
What does that mean?
So I definitely believe that sometimes I don't let the reins go. And I want to control every situation, but that's not what a good like my businesses should run without me walking in them. And I need to trust my teams, knowing how well I've set that up. Sometimes I have to, sit down and say, Katie, they've got this, let them do it. Perfectionism in the sense of I'm just a perfectionist, so I want everything perfect, but done is better than perfect. So I have to sometimes, step back and say, you're not, like, just let it happen.
You mean like you spend too much time on a task and you can't move on to a different task? Is that what you mean by perfectionist?
Yeah. Or like I have someone do something for me, I paid them to do it, and then I'm like going in there and changing things because, I think I know it better, which is not the case. I've hired a specialist to do something specific, right? So sometimes I really just have to ground myself and say, no, done is better than perfect. And 9 times out of 10, whether it's content or something, it looks great, but I'm being perfectionist over it.
Right.
So
entrepreneurs are very, very known to plan their life ahead of time. Okay, they're notoriously the ones that are most successful are the ones that plan the most. And those that plan for the farthest timeline. Okay, so like 10, 20 years down the road, which the majority of the population can't even plan a year down the road.
Yeah.
So, do you plan? And if you do, how far down the road do you plan?
So I do plan, but I don't hold like emotional ties to it. So I have a 10-year plan. I don't plan on having kids for 10 years. Like I don't need to make that decision right now, because then I can work. There's things like that I know are probably going to stay. And then as far as like companies and things, it depends on what it is. I have really in depth 1-year plans, right? And then I have, generic 5-year, generic 10-year plans where, projected this is where this should be and this is where that should be. But I mean, with Corona coming in, it flopped my whole plan anyways. So I was about to go, speak, because there was no opportunity for me to be buying and selling. Well, there was opportunity, but not like this. So now everything has shifted. So, okay, now I'm going to go back to doing what I'm really good at, continue doing that, but still building this at the same time, which is the 5-year, 10-year plan. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they start to exit, which I'm nowhere close to exiting, they become coaches and speakers, right? So how do I build that database in the meantime, bring them along with the journey, and then eventually that's my exit. It's kind of my overall plan, but
right.
Okay.
They say with anyone that's planned anything right now, that plan should come to a complete halt, and they should go complete tactical. They shouldn't even worry about plans or growth or anything like that. They should worry about survival.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
100%. I think people need to be surgical right now and like nitpick everything apart. As far as companies, like you need to stop bleeding. You need to, the thing is, it's changing every day as well. So you can't even predict, okay, what's your overhead to run? And then, how long do we keep our employees on? How long do we keep paying them? When does it like morally or ethically be okay to let our employees go? At what point do we stop the bleeding? If I stop the bleeding now, but I stop it in 3 months, they're still going to hate me. So, you have to be really surgical right now. And I think that survival tactic of, I definitely personally believe that in big corporations, employees are getting swiped. Like the first row of employees, you're out, right?
Yes.
And I think that you have your key players that have to stay in. And I think that that's a survival tactic 100%. But even those ones that stay on, do they have to take a salary cut? Do they have to, these are hard conversations a lot of people are having to have. And the problem is there is no end in sight. We're not functioning in a day-to-day basis like we usually are. So this has never happened where we're all in lockdown. So it's very interesting to see, but definitely survival tactic. You should and you should know that the way that we do business from here on out is never going to be the same. And like,
what
people might prefer this, right? People might prefer everything online. We've realized that we can do everything online. Why are we paying rent at an office building when our whole team was functioning perfectly fine at home? Right? So a lot of things are going to change.
Yes. So. What I say is that Corona accelerated our use of the internet, and we were all heading in that direction anyway. But Corona put it 5 years. Yeah, it really pushed it. You're like, okay, you guys weren't ready for the internet. Get ready right now. Ready? Go. That's basically what happened. Okay, so you being a very positive person, because you're a coach. Coaches have to be positive.
Absolutely.
How do you stay positive? Because after all, we're all human beings. We all have ups and downs. We're not robotic, so we can't always be in one position. So how do you bounce back from being, from all these whispering doubts that happen in normal human beings' minds?
Yeah.
How do you stay positive?
Number one, I run. Running clears my head no matter what.
Every day?
So I think everyone needs something. Meditation, running, the gym. Somehow you need to release, right?
And you do this every day?
Pardon?
You do this every day?
Running?
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like therapeutic to me.
Yeah.
So whatever that thing is, if it's meditation, motivational podcast, whatever it is, you need that outlet that is going to keep you sane. And then as far as so I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me along the years. So, and my life has been in jeopardy multiple times. So I was sick and recovered and sick and recovered and all these things, right? So for me, I always look at the worst case. So, it could be I'm having the worst day at work, but then, I'm here. So gratitude is huge. Every night it's gratitude. It's like, I need my moments. I need to say my gratitude. I don't do it in the morning. I know most people do it in the morning, but nighttime. And then the other thing is just, it's life. So for me, it's life, because it's like, I'm here and I'm not supposed to be here. So at any point in time, when I say that to myself, it's instantly, it doesn't matter what's going on. Like I could be in a hospital bed with my arm cut off. I'm still alive. So, for me, it's such perspective. It's such a, kind of dark and light situation for me. But that, my running and my gratitude, I'll just be in a good positive mood. So that's kind of how I keep it going.
You mentioned you had a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you consult with your coach maybe more than the majority of people would consult with others.
Yeah.
Would you care to share who your coach is and how did you get connected with them?
Yeah. So my coach is JT Fox. Okay. He is the world's #1 wealth and business coach. And so it's a funny story. I went to Tony Robbins in October with a friend of mine. Yeah.
Where, in Miami?
Pardon?
Miami?
In Toronto.
Toronto. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did come to Toronto. Yes.
Yeah, there was like Rachel Hollis. There's some big names. Yeah. Molly Bloom. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I went with a girlfriend of mine. It's literally, in so many ways, it's just kind of funny how it all unfolded. But so he was speaking. Now I kind of tap out. I'm very squirrel brained. You can't keep me still. Like when there's a speaker on, I'm just kind of do. I'm usually networking in the back. I'm that girl, right? So, and we're sitting like 4 rows to the back. So I'm already distracted because, Tony Robbins is this big and on stage. And so this guy comes out and it's JT. And I get a text from my girlfriend and she says, pay attention. You'll like this guy. Now I'm a very like numbers person, like hardcore content type person. Right. And he comes out and I literally rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, sure. Her name's Sandra. I was like, sure, Sandra. This is another speaker at another event selling something, right? And so he starts saying like some big names and his whole show was awesome. And 2 of his clients went up there, Polly and Christine, which I now know. Spoke with Polly in Edmonton a few weeks ago. And he pitched like a 2-day course. So I went to the 2-day course, which was a week later by myself, which I would never usually do either. And then I got an opportunity, to kind of work with him, and they had their big event, which was mega success, a week later. So I spoke on stage with Stephen Graham, Oprah's partner, Bernice Rin, Stephen Bradbury, and JT. And then it kind of just went like crazy. So then I went to Florida, went to his house, was getting coached by him. He had me speak in Edmonton. It just kind of ripple effect of craziness. And the one thing I will always say about JT is, some people love him, some people hate him. But the thing with him is it's strict, no bullshit, no excuses. That's literally what he's like. So some people really can't handle that. And for me, it was like what I craved in a coach, because I feel like everyone constantly, was telling me what I want to hear. I also, like, sometimes with coaches, I'll dance around them on purpose because I can tiptoe around them, and if they can catch me, it's a good thing. It means they're a good coach. But if they can't, then it's like, I'm more advanced than they are, right? And he's the first person who stopped me in my tracks, caught me off guard, was like, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, wow, okay. So I started to learn more about him, but I had no idea who he was. I met tons of celebrities through him. Have had so many opportunities come from that. And yeah, he's a great, great coach. And I've had an incredible experience with that whole organization. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So can anyone, obviously now people that are going to be watching this, they're wondering, how do I become like Katie? How do I emulate her? In your opinion, can anyone become an entrepreneur to your caliber? And if so, how?
I think anyone can become an entrepreneur. It takes a level of sacrifice not many are willing to give up, though. So I very much, I have the people that I care about most, they're closest to me, but I live this life for me, and that sacrifice is huge. And not many people can do that. If you can do that, if you can execute on that, if you can say, it doesn't matter if I'm sleeping on a couch, it doesn't, and that's the problem when people look at Katie now, right? They see the finished product, or I'm not finished, right? I'm still going, but they see this statue. It's kind of like you look at Dr. Phil, or you look at someone on that level, and you assume, Gary Vee, you assume that that's took nothing. And they don't see the struggle and the sacrifice along the way. It's if you can be humble enough to kind of say, okay, this is going to take time, and I will give it everything. I think anyone can be successful. You just have to have that work ethic and that drive. And it's like no bullshit, zero excuses, 99. I don't care and I'm like emotionless with money now. But back then I was, every penny counted, and I would stay up till the crack of dawn and be up at the crack of dawn. So yeah, I think if you can sacrifice, you can do it.
And how would you advise someone to start?
Take what you're good at and take what you're not good at. Everyone says, and so my coach actually taught me more on this, but take what you're good at, take what you're not good at. Whatever you're not good at, a lot of people it's sales, a lot of people it's closing, things like that. You need to double down on what you're not good at. Still using what you're good at, but you need to double down on what you're not good at. I was not good at reading, like speed reading. My coach can apparently speed read like crazy. I can't read like crazy. I'm an audio person because we have all these new tools, right? So even though I can use those tools, I should be able to still read fast. So one thing I worked on was that. What is it doing? I don't really know, but I'm getting better at it. So, take what you're not good at.
When did you start speed reading?
This would have been after the first 2 days. I heard him say that, and I'm like, I'm really not good at this. I need to get better at this. So I'm trying to get faster and like time chapters and see, and I'm getting a little better, but it was one thing I wasn't good at. A lot of people at sales or marketing, closing. One thing I really wasn't good at was talking about myself. That was my biggest breakthrough in coaching. I would have never told someone I was a millionaire. I would have never, any of these things. Speaking, I never wanted to speak. He knew I didn't want to speak, so he keeps putting me on stages and making me speak. I tremble every time I do it, but every time I've done it, it's gotten easier.
Nice.
So, and the very last time was 5,000 people, and I was fine. So,
nice.
It's whatever you're really not good at, double down on that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
okay, so if you're not good at something, double down on something, and then what? Like what do you do after that? So if someone wants to get started, they have to have discipline, sacrifice,
Yeah.
focus, and then double down on something that they're weak areas, and then what? What's the
Like if you're wanting to start a business, or it depends what you want to do. If you want to start a business, if you want to get into property, you need to do the education on it. So if it's starting a business, you really need to look at markets. You need to look at demographics. You need to look at how does your strengths even work in this business. You might get someone who's really good at art, and then they want to open a tattoo shop. Oh, there's so many layers that you have to kind of go through to make sure that it's in the right demographics. What other things can you be bringing in? Tattoo removal just as well as tattoos. You just have to kind of innovate in those little incubators, and then don't go too big too fast. Now, I went really big really fast, and it worked, but it doesn't usually work. Usually people go too big too fast, and then they're stretched too wide, and something like coronavirus happens, or an economic dip or something, and you lose it all. You don't just lose one. And find out, because I always say you don't have to be doing what you love. You just need to find something, and then find the love in it after. Like if you're starting out ground zero, you have no money, you don't get to enjoy what you love right now. You have to work your ass off, and then eventually one day you get to do things you love. Like I love helping people. That's why I love coaching. But it took me how many years to get there, right? There was so many days that I hated my life. So just not giving up and kind of sticking on that one thing until it pays off. And also, if it's not working, scrap it. Start another again. Like, don't be afraid of failure. You have to just keep scrapping and starting. So,
right on. Well, thank you so much for being on. I think I've exhausted you. I know you're probably tired. You probably had a bunch of meetings today, knowing you.
I did.
Knowing you would drive. So I'm really, really happy that you actually even accepted to be on. So thank you. Really appreciate that. I will be putting your tag, like your handle, your Instagram handle, so people can reach you, and people can reach you easily if they want to reach you.
Yeah, I'm always available via DMs or Messenger. I'm doing voice notes right now. It's a lot easier. So
okay,
knocking them all out fast.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Discover with Sbenati, and tune in for next time as we discover more.